Hi.
Hello again. In the Proclaimer's book, page 62, we've got up to the disappointment, the great disappointment in this chapter, which is entitled A Time of Testing, 1914 to 1918. And the subhead this time is, Brother Russell, were you not disappointed? Which is a quote from a kind of a dialogue that Russell writes about between a typical Bible student of the time and Brother Russell. So it sets up some of the next couple of paragraphs. I will commence to read how they do this. How did they break down this disappointment, and who gets blamed? Brother Russell had been encouraging the Bible students to keep on the watch and to be determined to continue in the Lord's work, even if matters did not culminate as soon as they might have expected. October 1914 passed, and C.T. Russell and his associates were still on earth. Then, October 1915 passed. Was Russell disappointed? In the Watchtower of February 1, 1916, which after all is the year he dies, he wrote, quote, but, this is the dialogue I just mentioned, but, Brother Russell, what is your thought as to the time of our change, meaning going to heaven? Were you not disappointed that it did not come when we hoped that it would? You will ask. So Russell is quoting the hypothetical brother. No, we reply, we were not disappointed. Brethren, those of us who are in the right attitude toward God are not disappointed at any of His arrangements. We did not wish our own will to be done. So when we found out that we were expecting the wrong thing in October 1914, then we were glad that the Lord did not change His plan to suit us. We did not wish Him to do so. We merely wished to be able to apprehend His plan and purposes.
No, the Bible students were not taken home to heaven in October of 1914. Nevertheless, the Gentile times did end in that year. Clearly, the Bible students had more to learn as to the significance of 1914. Meanwhile, what were they to do? Work, as the Watchtower of September 1st, 1916 put it. We imagined that the harvest work of gathering the church of the anointed ones would be accomplished before the end of the Gentile times. But nothing in the Bible said so, or so said. Are we regretful that the harvest work continues? Nay, verily, our present attitude, dear brethren, should be one of great gratitude toward God, increasing appreciation of the beautiful truth which He has granted us the privilege of seeing and being identified with, and increasing zeal in helping to bring that truth to the knowledge of others. But was there much more to be done in the harvest work? Brother Russell evidently thought so. Indicating this was a conversation he had with Brother Macmillan in the fall of 1916. Calling Macmillan to his study at Brooklyn Bethel, Russell told him, "The work is increasing rapidly, and it will continue to increase, for there is a worldwide work to be done in preaching the good news of the kingdom in all the world." Russell spent 3.5 hours outlining to Macmillan what he saw from the Bible to be the great work yet ahead. The Bible students had come through a difficult test, but with the help of the Watchtower, they were strengthened to triumph over disappointment. The testing season, however, was far from over.
I don't know where to start here. Let's start at the last comment, though. This idea that somehow Russell knew better than the brothers, and that he's sharing his insights as to what's to come with Brother Macmillan, but unfortunately this didn't get into print.
Yeah, even that last paragraph, they separate Russell from the Watchtower, even though he's the main person. He is the Watchtower.
He is the Watchtower.
And yet they make it sound as if, the Watchtower, spookily, was helping Russell.
But of course, they did believe that he was still directing the work after he died. That's actually on the title page of the finished mystery that comes out during this testing period.
Directing beyond the veil.
Directing beyond the veil. Check it out.
Yeah.
That's one of the principal reasons that the finished mystery is no longer in circulation, because it does sound like occultism. When what they believed at the time was that Russell and the saints were going straight to heaven. They didn't believe it had to wait until 1918 or 1919. So, just to start at the beginning, though, this phrase that jumps out to me at the end of paragraph 1, they were to be determined, Russell said, to continue in the Lord's work even if matters did not culminate as soon as they might have expected. They might have expected.
Yeah.
Who has set this disappointment up by the bold things he said in print? I think we've already referenced that in the previous segment, but when you get into this second paragraph, were you not disappointed that it did not come when we hoped it would?
Yeah.
And Russell, speaking, I guess, on behalf of the right-minded people within the organization, is saying, no, we weren't disappointed. If it's God's plan, who are we to be disappointed with it?
Yeah, but it's almost blaming God. We were not disappointed at any of his arrangements. But you said the other arrangements were his. You said they were his dates, not ours.
Yeah, that's the phrase that they've used in the publications, God's dates, not ours. So when 14 goes by and what doesn't happen, the 7 expectations that we've talked about before here, the 7 things they Russell predicted would happen by 1914. What do you do then? Well, you not only say be loyal, because Russell is still the faithful and discreet slave, which is plainly the message of the finished mystery and was Rutherford's message for some 10 years after Russell died.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're Russell, though, at the time? Well, you start re-editing your old books, which is what he did.
So it's this we here is blaming the brothers again for taking him at his word, for believing what he said, not saying I was wrong.
Teaching that he was personally the faithful and discreet slave, which he did very little to discourage.
Yeah.
And Rutherford did very little to discourage. In fact, he insisted he still was the faithful and discreet slave.
So in spite of the fact that what they were expecting for 1914 to go to heaven, nevertheless, the Gentile times did end in that year. Why nevertheless? You've been wrong before. Why should we just assume this is right?
And of course, this is the one fragment of Russell's chronology they're still clinging to.
Yeah.
So the certainty that nevertheless the Gentile times did end that year, that certainty, we'll see what happens with that doctrine in the next few months or years. Are they going to abandon this one too? Because the rest of the chronology is a wreck.
Then even what in the next paragraph when they say, or no, it's in the same paragraph, they say, what must we do now? We must work. Then they say in September 1st, 1916, we imagined, not just imagined, you proclaimed.
What did they imagine?
Yeah. You imagined and proclaimed that the harvest work was going to be done by the end of the Gentile times.
Why is that? Because it was supposed to be from 1874 to 1914.
Yeah.
It wasn't to extend beyond that.
Yeah.
But the harvest was to be completed.
But then they say, but nothing in the Bible so said. Then why were you saying it?
Insistently.
Yeah.
And who's doing the gathering work, by the way, in the harvest, according to Jesus himself?
It's the angels. It's not you.
So then the angels that are on your side during all of these mistakes are the wrong angels, it would appear.
Yeah. And that's supposed to be happening when Christ returns. The angels do the gathering.
And this beautiful truth that they boast about, increasing appreciation of the beautiful truth that he's granted to us, the privilege of seeing and being identified with.
And
what is that beautiful truth?
And that we're going to bring to others. Yeah, what was the beautiful truth then? It was that he is the faithful and discreet slave, Russell.
Yeah.
That by 1914, we're going to be in heaven. that by 1918 Christendom is going to be knocked out. By 1920 fire from heaven's going to come down.
Going to take care of the rest in total anarchy.
Yeah, all of which have been scrapped. That does not make it truth, and it certainly doesn't make it beautiful.
And the insistence that if you didn't attach yourself to this faithful and discreet slave, C.T. Russell, you were going to die in this coming period of war and anarchy that they thought they were already in. They thought that the 1914 war was the beginning of Armageddon. And that's the way it was even presented to me when I started to study in 1970, that somehow it was interrupted so that this great harvest work could go on, which was to last one generation.
Mm-hmm.
The generation of 1914 would see that's the way it was presented to me 56 years later, in 1970. So then, when did that come in? This idea that the good news of the kingdom, and you read the Macmillan quote, right, from Faith on the March,
right,
that Russell is privately revealing to him that he has this great vision of the gospel of the kingdom needed to be preached in all the world. But that's not what they taught.
He saw it in the Bible.
But what they were teaching was that the Christendom had already preached the gospel of the kingdom in all the world for a while. That's what they taught long after Russell died.
Yeah.
So this remembrance or recollection of Macmillan is either false or he's wishfully thinking, reading back their present doctrines into the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that gospel of the kingdom that they've been preaching, though, as Ray France points out in both of his books, has changed. It's morphed.
Yeah.
And it's even morphed a third times after Ray France wrote those books, which is, at first it was, everything's over by 1914.
Yeah.
Then Rutherford's version of it was that it would be over by 1925. And then when that failed too, we've got, within a generation of 1914.
The ones that saw 1914 will be around when the end happens.
And of course, the third mutation of that gospel of the kingdom is this overlapping generations idea. It's not a single generation.
So it's shifting sand. This is just, they just keep shifting it to make it fit so that they don't have to give up. So they just keep shifting.
Well, all the while clinging to the one thing that they can cling to from the original chronology, 1914.
And if they were only preaching about Christ, his death, his burial, his resurrection, they wouldn't have to be making these apologies. They would have a message that was rock.
Yeah. Which is Jesus Christ.
That's right. Instead of shifting sand, constantly changing it so that they can hang on.
Knowing God's dates, though, and claiming that you know God's dates and that nobody else does is blasphemy, because you are claiming to know the mind of God himself. Mm-hmm. Even Christ said, not even the Son knows the day and the hour. Mm-hmm. But this is one consistency or continuity in Watchtower history, is they've always claimed to know more about times and seasons than anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the secret of their attracting multitudes.
Yeah. So we're going to link, right? We're going to link to what we referred to last time was Hananiah and Jeremiah, two prophets. They're preaching the same outcome, but one gives a different date than Jeremiah had. He gives a new date. Jeremiah
had said that the exile of Israel is going to be 70 years.
And he says, no, it'll all be over in 2 years. So we're going to link to a video we did on that. He is said to be preaching rebellion by giving a date other than the one that was already given by Jeremiah.
And the reason it's rebellion is because he caused the people to trust in a lie.
Yeah.
Has the Watchtower been guilty of that?
Jeremiah 28.
Yeah, I think it was a big shock to you when you first read it.
Yeah, this put a different spin on whether or not we can excuse or just forget about wrong predictions and wrong dates. You know, we're so soft on that as witnesses about ourselves anyways.
Yeah, you see it here. It's just endless rationalizing about the mistakes.
Yeah. But Hananiah, He didn't get that privilege. Yeah.
Actually, God showed who he was using within 2 years that vindicated Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in addition to the Hananiah video, we're going to have the playlist. The Have Jehovah's Witnesses Ever Been God's Organization playlist, which has a lot more material about the 1914 to 1918 period.
Mm-hmm.
See you soon.
Bye.